Did you hear that? Listen again really closely this time. Did you hear it? This incredible Stihl 088 chainsaw has a fluctuation in engine RPM at idle. It's a classic sign of an air leak, yet I've fully rebuilt this engine from the ground up. And I've done all the necessary tests on all the components, and I still have an air leak somewhere. So what exactly is going on? Where is this lean symptom coming from? And I'm sure you can relate to this. You do everything per the manual, yet it still doesn't run correctly. And at this point, understandably, you just feel like giving up. What actually is happening here is not only incredibly common, especially on the older machines, but as subtle as it is, can lead to hundreds if not thousands of dollars in damages and repair bills. Now, it's not all bad news. Fortunately, to diagnose this issue takes just a couple of seconds, and it doesn't require any tools or disassembly. Notice as soon as I touch that trigger, and I'm not opening the throttle here, I'm simply applying pressure, the engine RPM increases and it leans out as well. This is the first and most important means of diagnosing the issue that I have. Every time you touch that throttle, you apply load to the throttle shaft, and that in turn rubs against the aluminium bore of the carburetor that it rides in. That contact between the two over time creates wear, and that opens up a path to allow unmetered air to get into the engine. And an almost imperceivable amount of wear can lead to problems, and unless you look really closely, you're going to miss it every time. This fault, especially when it's in the early stages of wear, is only really noticeable at idle. This is because the butterfly in the carburetor is closed and in turn creates increased crankcase vacuum. Therefore, it's going to try and draw air wherever it can. In this case, the weakest link is that warm bore. However, at full throttle, when that butterfly is fully open, air can move much more freely through the carburetor into the engine and reducing vacuum in the bottom end. Of course, when the wear gets worse, if you can start that saw, it then becomes more noticeable at full throttle. So now we know the issue. It's an air leak, and how to diagnose it by simply applying light pressure to the throttle without actually opening that butterfly. What are the solutions to fix it? Well, firstly, if it's very minor wear, you might just choose to leave well alone. Accept that it will fluctuate at idle and that sometimes doing nothing is the best thing. Getting creative can introduce further problems and cause more than you'll solve. The most basic of repairs, and it's only temporary, is to apply very thick grease around that throttle shaft and that bore area. And it's surprisingly effective, but it is just a short-term fix, just to get you out of trouble and allow you to finish the job you're working on. Now, on some machines, in the case of this Stihl 088 chainsaw, you can actually buy replaceable bushings. You simply remove that butterfly screw, slip out the butterfly, remove the E-clip from the other end, and then replace the bushings. Another repair that you can do is drill part way into that bore to open it up, install a little bit of grease, an O-ring, and then a washer on top. Be careful though, because if that O-ring is a little bit too tight around the shaft, it can actually cause binding of the linkage and become dangerous and frustrating as well. If you've got access to a lathe, you can actually ream the bore and then machine your own bushings from sintered bronze. And of course, you can become more creative by TIG welding and then reboring, but at that point it becomes a much more specialized job. It's unlikely that it's something you can do at home. One of, if not the best tools that I own, is this really affordable mini lathe. It's revolutionized my ability to rebuild many of these engines that I simply couldn't do otherwise. And I highly recommend anyone who's interested in repairs to seriously consider getting one. And I've gone into great detail in this 1-year review video up here for you next.